Hello! Sorry, I'm just adjusting. I haven't even tried to put it sideways this time because that doesn't ever seem to work on these lives lately. So, hello. Oh, hi. Oh, I can already see people in the chat. That's really nice. Good morning to those of you in the morning. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon here for me in the UK, and it's probably going to go dark. It's not dark, which is amazing because it has been dark by this time, but we can really see the shift now starting to happen into spring. Hey, Trish. Hi, Liz. Hi, Tanya. Yeah, lovely to see you guys. Nice to come on and have people here already. That's really cool. So I can see the chat, so that is good. And I've got my notes in front of me, so that is good as well. We're going to be talking about the astrology of February, especially to do with Pluto, and because, you know, that's a whole thing. That's going to be a whole thing for, you know, for a while now, because Pluto has moved into Aquarius already. But we'll be dropping back out back into Capricorn for a little while later on this year before it goes back into Aquarius for like 20 years. So, you know, it is a big thing. It's not like the kind of final shift of Pluto into Aquarius, but it is really significant, especially this month because, well, next month in February, because all of the personal planets, so Mercury, Mars and Venus, are all going to be making conjunctions with Pluto in that time period as well. So it's like affecting us on like, it's almost like the ultimate like a macrocosm and microcosm stuff. So we're going to be seeing big shifts on like a kind of a global level. And then we're also going to be seeing a lot of shifts on a personal level as well. I think especially within the realms of relationships and things like that. Just looking at the chat. Hey, is it shot up then? Oh, good. Hi, Carol. Hi, Shannon. Yeah, nice to see you guys here. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about like the overall feel of the month, and then just break down some key dates as we're going through the month, because there's like some sort of, it's almost like it's like a story basically of like all of the planets passing over as they go through over Pluto as we go through the month, and then we'll kind of like sum it up a little bit. And I've grabbed a deck as well. I've grabbed 2 decks actually. I've got the Everyday Witch, so I thought we'd pull a couple of cards from there to get a kind of energy read for the month as well. And I've also grabbed the Witch Oracle deck as well, which I thought would be quite nice to have another card from there, because it definitely does feel. Since I've been doing these astrology forecasts, I spent a long time doing mooncasts, and it was like kind of like some months were quite significant, some months weren't, you know, and it was just kind of like this and then this, and kind of like overall balance of like sometimes some things are busy, sometimes things are not. And for the last like year, well, maybe honestly since about 2020, it has just been like significant stuff after significant stuff after significant stuff. And we definitely feel like we're in this kind of like epoch changing kind of feel at the moment. And initially I was feeling quite like at the whims of that a little bit, like, you know, like the way that I work with astrology is I see it as kind of as like semi predetermined. Like I know like in modern astrology it's more trendy to kind of see astrology as being like, oh, this is a suggestion and you can kind of work with it. And you know, there's definitely a lot of merit in that approach for sure. And like traditional astrology can sometimes be a little bit more like you know, this is fate, it's all fated and there's like nothing we can really do. Well, I don't think that's necessarily the case, because otherwise, like, I kind of think like what would be the point of doing it? And like I've noticed in my own life as well how oh, hi Liz, how when I work with the energy, it definitely like I think it's got to be practical. It's got to be working in a practical way for us to like think, okay, this is what's going on and I can work with it. I've seen for myself that works, you know, we can make adjustments. So I prefer to see it as like a kind of more of a middle road kind of thing where, you know, my Libra ascendant is coming out here. I tend to see it as like our kind of like our DNA. So like we inherit certain characteristics, we inherit certain traits, and some of those are predetermined. You know, some of those things like maybe like our eye color, our hair color, things like that. It's like this will happen because this is in our DNA. And then there's a lot of things in our DNA which are triggered or not by the environment. And you know, we can like maybe we've got a gene which predisposes us to like obesity or diabetes or something like that. But if we make changes to our environment, that won't actually express. And that is how I feel about astrology as well. Like by understanding it and by understanding how we can like work with it, we can say, okay, this is like the hand I've been dealt. and I can choose how I'm going to play that hand, you know? So yeah, that's what I mean by being a kind of like a middle road between being like fully predetermined and fully, you know, we've got full free will. Because I don't know, like sometimes that also goes into some of like the law of attraction stuff. Is like literally you can do anything, and I feel like sometimes that can be a little bit toxic as well, because it doesn't take into account where people are in their lives currently at the moment as well. So yeah, that's just giving you like an overview of where I stand with it. I know most of you guys who are here, I can see lots of people who are in like in my membership and stuff as well, so you guys know where I stand with this already. Yeah, and I don't find that disempowering, because I think like we've got plenty of scope to make our own, we can work with it, but you know, it's also not like a complete we can do anything that we want. And like, why, that's good. I think like, I feel like narrowing down the options a little bit is helpful, because otherwise it can be overwhelming as well. So yeah, Liz says she agrees with this. So that's good. I'm glad. So I've actually made a blog post to go alongside this, which I haven't published yet, because I want to pull the cards first. So I'm going to pull the cards at the end of our little chat together here now, talking about the astrology of February. And then I'll take some photos of those and a little write-up, and I'll put that into the blog post as well, and then I'll publish the blog post. So I'll link that, like if you're watching this in a replay, then I'll have linked, hopefully, if I remember, the blog post to this video, or pinned it in the comments or something like that as well. And I'll share it like on social media and stuff like that if you follow me on there. I'm mainly on Facebook now, which seems mad, because Facebook is gross, I know, but it's really good for groups. And we've got a really lovely group on Facebook, Circle of Kindred, which I know lots of people here are in. And so I tend to just post there mainly. And Instagram is just so gross because of all the like scamming and stuff. People pretending to be people and then trying to scam people out of money. And I was just like, oh, I can't be doing with that. So yeah, let's talk about February. Oh, hey Shah. Hey Pagan Crafting. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, it's been weird because I haven't been live for ages. Last month I didn't do it because I can't even remember, like I wasn't well or my son wasn't well or something. But yeah, we are here. We're going to do it now. So yeah, I'm seeing February as being quite, like, I don't know if you felt it since the Leo full moon. How did you feel around that full moon? Because that has kind of activated that Leo Aquarius axis. Because when we're thinking about the zodiac as a wheel, there's so much action happening in Aquarius now in February. And if we look at the opposite side of the wheel, that is Leo, and that is where we've just had that full moon. And I know a lot of people were poorly. A lot of people had quite intense like mood swings and things like that around that full moon. It is very much like it was activating. It was very activating. And for me, I feel now, after that full moon, that I am in 2024. Prior to that full moon, I just hadn't felt like I transitioned properly into this new year. I was still kind of like, you know, what's going on? And that was the same, like that feels like it's going to be even more emphasized now as we go into February, because a lot of the planetary positions from last year kind of just continued into January. There wasn't like this big change, but now with Pluto and the Sun crossing over into Aquarius in January, and now as we go through the month, we're going to have Mercury, we're going to have Mars, we're going to have Venus, they're all going to go into Aquarius. We're going to have the new moon as well. And so there's an awful lot of change. And yeah, we're going to decode that Pluto. So we're going to talk a little bit about Pluto and what the significations of Pluto are, and also talk about Aquarius itself and like what the significations of that are. So should we get started with that now? Let's talk about Pluto. Like, what do you think of when you think of Pluto? And for me, like, Pluto is like the furthest out planet in our solar system. It's got like a kind of crazy elliptical orbit, so it doesn't stay in all of the signs at the same amount of time, but it's always a long time. You know, it's like sometimes 15 years, sometimes 20 years in a sign. So it takes like a really long time to get around all 12 signs of the zodiac, of course, because, you know, it's staying such a long time in each sign. So we tend to see Pluto as being more of like a generational planet. It shows like big zeitgeist shifts in the kind of collective energy. So for a long time now, we've had Pluto in Capricorn. So Pluto, when we think of Capricorn, we think of it being, you know, it's like a cardinal earth sign. It's got that kind of earthy, building, practical quality. Oh, hi, Siren. And that like kind of practicalness, that earthiness, and Pluto's energy, which we'll talk about in a moment, is kind of, it was very like kind of practical, but almost like a little bit materialistic, you know, like, and that can be a good thing in some ways. Like, well, like material stuff is important. Like, I don't love when people get into all the kind of spirituality is completely non-embodied. I love like embodied spirituality. So I think about, I don't think that necessarily physical things are evil, which is like definitely a belief. It's come from like Stoicism, Gnosticism, things like that, where it's like, well, if something's incarnated, if something is physically on this earth, then it is evil, because if it's in a material body, it's evil. So money is evil, you know, property is evil. Anything like that can be associated with evil. I don't think that's like I don't think that's true, basically. I feel like there's a lot of beauty and a lot of power in material things, definitely. But, you know, there's the flip side of that, which is that, yes, we are in a very intensely capitalist society, and we tend to like elevate things, achievements, successes, monetary achievements, more so in capitalism. And so we've had Pluto, and like it's not an accident that Pluto is linked with like kind of large wealth. Like we have Plutocrats, we literally have Plutocrats. Pluto is like this very intense planet, even though it's small and the kind of, like I said, that's this kind of like elliptical strange orbit, a bit different from what all the other planets are doing. And we haven't studied it for so long as well, because we haven't known, like it wasn't discovered because it is small and it is far away, you know, so it's only since we've had the better technology to be able to see these kind of things we've been able to incorporate that into the astrology. So we've got this Pluto, which is named after the god of the underworld. You know, Pluto is Hades. It is the god of the underworld. So the god of the underworld is that god who like presides over the dead and like almost like takes away life as well, or kind of like looks after the souls of the underworld. And like that can read, if you read different myths about Pluto, you know, supposedly like raping, abducting Persephone, there's some like dark stuff. And like when we think about the underworld, like not Christian hell necessarily, because like the Greeks, when they were talking about this, weren't thinking in terms of Christianity and hell and things like that, but obviously that has kind of been overlaid on it now, so you know we can think about it in that context as well. Pluto is like those kind of hidden dark things, the taboo things, and that's why Pluto in modern astrology gets associated with the sign Scorpio, because Scorpio is also associated with this kind of taboo things, so like death, sometimes even like kind of kinky stuff, sometimes sexual stuff as well, though I think like the kind of more taboo sexual stuff, rather than like sex generally as a kind of like procreative, beautiful thing, that doesn't tend to be so associated with Pluto and Scorpio. But yeah, it's got those kind of like underworldly themes, and transformational as well. Like there are a lot of modern astrologers as well, especially like evolutionary astrology, Pluto is seen as this planet that gives us that opportunity for death, but then also rebirth, because you know that is how things work in a material universe, is that there is a finite amount of stuff that is here. There's a finite amount of like atoms or whatever it is, you know, however small we want to go on kind of categorizing the stuff that is here. And in order for new stuff to be made, it has to be made from stuff that's already here. So things have to kind of be broken down in order for other things to come up, you know, and that is just like the cycle of material existence. And like that can be obviously like when we lose somebody that we love, that is obviously really painful, because like we like that arrangement of atoms and we had a strong connection with that. But from like, if you like zoom out, and that's what Pluto gives us, is a kind of like zoomed out perspective. It's like that idea of circulation, of death and rebirth, of transformation, is something that needs to continue in order for life to kind of prosper and be for new things, you know, for new things to be able to come into being. So, you know, we can look at that as being kind of scary, or we can look at it as an opportunity. So I'm choosing to look at it as an opportunity, and we get to choose, you know, we get to choose. So we've got this heavy, like I said, we had that Pluto and Capricorn energy, which was much more earthy, much more kind of like earthy, probably favoring more of the activities. Like I don't think it's an accident that over this period of time when Pluto's been in Capricorn, the richest people in the world have got even richer, and like that gap has opened between poorer people and richer people. It is very much emphasizing that kind of extreme nature. But now Pluto is in Aquarius, and like I said, it is going to dip back into Capricorn one last time later this year, just for a little while before it stays in Aquarius for the next 20. But Pluto in Aquarius, that's a whole different ball game. So let's talk about the nature of Aquarius then. So Aquarius is a fixed air sign. So when we think of the air signs, we think of kind of like intellect, mental energy, so thoughts, ideas, worldviews as well, paradigms, the way we kind of like think about how things should be. And Aquarian, especially Aquarius energy, has got this like beautiful draw to kind of make things better, to like expand our kind of collective consciousness, and just be, it always wants to be improving things. And you find like people with strong Aquarius in the chart, so I know some of the people in the chat have got that. They are always kind of like looking like, how can we improve things? How can we make things better? And quite often they've got some really great ideas, like out of the box ideas, you know, like not, they don't tend to be like Capricorn, it can be kind of like, this is what works. This is traditional. We're going to carry on with the traditional. And then Aquarius is like, no, you know, it's not really working very well. We're going to break with tradition and we're going to do something different. So we've got that kind of iconoclastic, sometimes activist as well, kind of thinking with Aquarius. It's like we want better things for the world. And so when Pluto, that planet of like death and rebirth, and like very much associated if you're a tarot reader as well, which I know some of you here are, when we think about the death card in tarot, that is that Pluto energy. So when that goes into that realm of like ideas and like activism and collaboration as well, like Aquarius is a very much, let's come together and make something better. It wants that kind of positive change for the world. And so we've got that death and rebirth energy now in that realm of fixed air. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of change in regards to like the kind of collective worldviews that people think with. And we'll probably see a lot more opportunity for like different ways of thinking, different ways of dealing things. Shannon's saying we do want better things for the world. Yes, yeah. Aquarians, my daughter's Aquarius as well, and she's very like why can't we do things like this, you know? they've always got these ideas of like, this could work, this can work like this, you know, it would be better, and it would be better for more people, you know. They've got this very it's not a very personal view either. It's like, it's definitely like looking at it from a humanitarian, like a very zoomed out kind of perspective as well. So yeah, I feel like we've got this opportunity for shifts now. So Pluto has already moved into Aquarius. And what I think is interesting, when Pluto just popped into Aquarius a little bit last year in 2023, there was a lot of talk about like AI stuff and things as well. So like when we think of like AI, of like consciousness, of like artificial consciousness, artificial intelligence, that is like such an Aquarian thing in itself. And I know there's a lot of mixed opinion about AI. Like we don't know yet how that is going to pan out, and how you know, we get into this to a stage, we've kind of got to a stage where we are potentially creating like a new form of consciousness on Earth, and that's really like scary or exciting, depending on, or both, you know, depending on your perspective of it, how we kind of look at these things. And when Pluto, like I said, dipped into Aquarius last year, there was an awful lot of talk about AI. And so I feel like that's something that we're going to see on a kind of global level. There probably will be a lot more stuff about AI going on in this next period of time when we've got Pluto in Aquarius, because that is the kind of like bigger thinking. But it's not just that. It's not just to do with you know, the kind of like technology is definitely a component of it, and like we'll see that when we're looking at the key dates as well, because there's an interesting conjunction, well there's a few interesting conjunctions coming up as well, especially like with Mercury conjunct Pluto. There's chance for like different ways of thinking, different ways of kind of interacting, and we're going to see that on a global scale, like I was saying. But because of the way that things are panning out this month, then we've definitely got more of a personal job to do here as well. I'm just gonna have a quick look at the chat. Carl says, yes, this is why now is the time for us to be bringing our gifts to what will make things better. Yeah, exactly. And that's what Aquarius wants. It like wants everyone to kind of pool their talents in kind of service of the collective. Like we have to remember that Aquarius is still a Saturn ruled sign, and like sometimes people are a bit like, how does that work? Because Saturn is this like kind of planet of like restriction and like consolidation and kind of like harsh lessons and things like that. And like people are so like people go like Capricorn and Saturn. Oh yeah, that makes sense. You know, that makes total sense. Capricorn and Saturn, because Saturn's like about building and like kind of structures and stuff like that. But then like how does that work with Aquarius? And it's because like when we get that Aquarius Saturn, we've got the idea of like building worldviews, and sometimes like people have got really strong ideologies as well. And like ideologies can go either way, can't they? You know, like there can be some ideologies which are really helpful for the human race and for the planet in general. And then we've also got very harmful ideologies which are very destructive to humanity and to everything else here on this planet as well. So these are the kind of big themes that we will be interacting with starting this month now, and you know, like I say, ongoing for a very long period of time. So you know, I think we will see many more stories about that in the news. We'll see a lot of the other things that are going on as well, around our ways of thinking about things, like thinking about the environment, thinking about kind of collective, especially things like maybe like social care and things like that as well, because Aquarians do want this, like they want the structures in place to support everybody, not so much like Capricorn is more about like kind of building structures for the person, you know, for the individual person. And like that's not necessarily a bad thing either. It's not to say that like an individual person who's got like wealth can then not redirect it into other stuff. Of course they can, but Aquarius has got that built in already. You know, it's like they don't want to be like benefiting when there's other people, you know, they don't want to be like, oh, I'm benefiting from this system, so that's why I want this system. It's like, no, I want the system to be able to benefit everybody. But like those ideologies don't always work out as well. So, you know, we need to be quite rigorous in our thinking around that as well, because you know, it's good to question. It's also going to be an interesting time as well, I think, for like looking back on history as well, and looking at like other epochs of time when similar kinds of things have happened. You know, again, that's that idea of like that death and rebirth cycle. It's like by looking at other deaths and rebirths of civilizations, because I feel like that's kind of like where we are now, we can learn about our present situation. So like, you know, it's not gonna be exactly the same, of course, but we can learn by looking at these patterns. You know, that's what a lot of astrology is like looking at patterns and thinking, oh, that played out like that last time, but how could it play out this time, you know, and kind of working from that. Siren says, oh, hi Siren. There may also be a lot of criticism of current systems that aren't working. And yes, exactly. It is very much that. I think we will see a lot of divided opinion about how the best way to proceed it is, because we've got a tendency, like now we've kind of built the way that civilization has become very globalized, and like power is concentrated in the hands of quite few people really compared to the number of people that are here on the planet. And we've kind of come to this place where it's like certain people believe that they should make the decisions for other people because of their education or because of their wealth or whatever, you know. It's like, no, those people over there aren't qualified to decide for themselves. I'm going to decide for them because I've got this qualification or I've studied this, you know, whatever. And I don't think that's going to be, people aren't going to love that so much now. As perhaps they kind of accepted it a bit more with Pluto and Capricorn. I think there's going to be more backlash to some of those, because there's going to be different competing ideologies, different ways of thinking, that kind of thing, that are going to be there's been a push to kind of centralize the narrative around how we live our lives over the last like 20 years. And a lot of people are realizing that they don't fit in very well with that narrative. A lot of people, you know, the majority of people maybe don't fit in. And even though perhaps the people who are pushing that narrative do have people's best interests at heart. I think it's like they have best interests at heart from a like a perspective of they don't really understand. It's like here in the UK, we've got a prime minister at the moment who is extremely rich, and you know, however much you kind of try to put yourself in the shoes perhaps of people who haven't got that same life experience as you, it's hard to do that. And I think that's where we've kind of come to this place now, and I think a lot of that is going to be like changing over these next 20 years. Carol says, yeah, we talk about that a lot in the work that I do. I work on a project that includes people's lived experience. Yeah, and that I've seen that happening more so now. Like at the moment, I still feel like it's a little bit of a tick box exercise. It's like, yes, we will, we have to get people with lived experience in to talk about this as well, you know. But we still really kind of want to make the decisions. But hopefully that'll become like an actual valuable thing moving forward. Like I've seen more push to like involve Indigenous communities in having a voice about their own communities and things like that as well. But the problem is that when like people they're like, oh yes, let's do that, we'll include them, and then they include them, and then they say things that they don't want them to say, and then they're like, oh well, we didn't want them to say that, so we have to try and find a way to not listen to them now, you know. We're in that kind of weird transition phase at the moment with this stuff that is kind of going on. So yeah, how does that all sound? Like, so do you feel like you've got like a handle on Pluto, what Pluto means, what Pluto signifies? And like, it's good to look as well of like where Pluto is for you personally. Like you can look at it obviously natally as well. Like most of us here will have it either like in Libra or any of the other signs moving around to Aquarius, because you know that's been quite a long time. I suppose some people might have it in Virgo as well. So you might have Libra in Virgo as well, Pluto in Virgo. But like you'd be really old otherwise beyond that kind of scope. Although maybe, you know, you may be watching this and you can look at that. But what was really helpful is to look at like where this is happening in your chart. Where is Aquarius in your chart? Like what house is it? If you know that, like I know not everybody knows that information about their charts, but this is like I tend to want to kind of aim this at people who do know a little bit about astrology, because I want you to be able to like apply it for yourselves. There's an awful lot of like astrology channels which are basically like sort of spoon feeding what is the current kind of energy, but without any like nuance of like it's that whole thing of like teach a man to fish and they can be self-sustaining kind of thing. Whereas if you just give somebody a fish, then they're just fed for one day. So like, I think it's good to kind of be able to use the tools even to like just a kind of reasonable level so that you can kind of do this stuff for yourself. Yes, exactly, Carol. Yeah. You know, it needs to be relevant wherever we're living. And so many more people are living in cities now than they have done for a long time, you know. Although cities have been a thing for humans, haven't they, for thousands of years as well. So yeah, it's different. So yeah, Shannon's saying that it's 7th house for them. Is for me is 5th house. You know, when we put this in the context of the house that we are working with, it can narrow down these areas which we're going to see the stuff. So if you know that, like kind of have that in the back of your mind, like, oh yeah, okay, for me it's maybe like the 10th house, so it might be to do with my career stuff that this stuff is going on, or perhaps it's to do with like my 4th house, it might be to do with that kind of like family of origin or traditions, kind of like home kind of stuff that might be coming up. Simon says, I hope with the energy of Pluto and Aquarius, this world looks at the good work, reclamation family. Yes, and yes, so there is a lot of good stuff happening, isn't there? There's a lot of people, like very often very Aquarian people, who are bringing these new ideas. Like innovation is very Aquarian as well, you know. This like, okay, this has kind of gone wrong, so let's bring this new way of doing it that we can kind of move things forward and do things better with this. Yeah. Yeah, and we're in this transition point at the moment. So let me just have a look at some of the dates. So that, yeah, like I say, be aware of like where it is happening in your chart. Pisces is also going to be highlighted towards the end of the month as well. So be thinking, okay, what house is that in my chart? If you know that. Yeah, but it's so concentrated at the moment because everything is kind of like in the same sort of place. So let me just go through some of the dates. Like I said, the main kind of event is this Pluto, and we kind of decoded that, broken that down a little bit. what that means is like this kind of transformational energy that is happening in that sign of Aquarius. And so wherever it is in your chart for you, you know, and that might be to do with your family, it might be to do with relationships, it might be to do with work, you know, but we will see it like playing out on this global scale as well over a long period of time. And like this month, because the way the personal planets are all making conjunctions with Pluto as they go through there, it's almost like an introduction. It's like it's a strange how it, like, it's like, wow, this is, you couldn't, like, if you planned it, it would have been like almost too perfect. How it's like, okay, so we're going to get Mercury to go and meet Pluto first of all, and we can see how that rebirth, restructuring might be happening in terms of our communication. And then like we get Mars making a conjunction with Pluto, and we get to see how, you know, like kind of like our motivation, our drive and stuff like that might kind of be reborn in that kind of Pluto energy as well. And then we get Venus going past Pluto as well. It's like, okay, so, you know, we're all going to have these intense transformational shifts during February, which are going to leave us kind of in a place of possibility. And like with the Death card in Tarot, it's like if you don't kind of, you have to roll with it, you know, but like with most of the tarot cards, you roll with that energy rather than try to fight against it. You can, and like you could also mitigate as well. So like if you think, oh gosh, say like if this is all happening in your 7th house of relationship and you're in a stable relationship and you don't want it to be the death of that relationship, then there will need to be some kind of restructuring that takes place. There will need to be like a shift in like communication, in probably passionate connection, and also in like in the relationship itself, in order for that to kind of continue going. So it's not like this is going to be like the end of everything that is in place in our lives, but there is this intense kind of transformational energy available at the moment. And like that's good. We want to be able to make these transformations, make these changes. Like when we're people who want to grow and develop, then harnessing this kind of transformational energy is really powerful for us. So, you know, it's good. It's good. Okay, so let's go through some of these key dates, because I've already talked for half an hour and I feel like we haven't like got right into it yet. So let's do it. So key dates, I've got February the 5th. That is when Mercury goes into Aquarius and instantly conjuncts with Pluto. So Mercury is like that planet of communication, you know, everyone is famous for going retrograde and kind of messing up everyone's communications and travel plans and things like that. So when we think of Mercury going into Aquarius, so Mercury is already a very airy planet, and when it goes into Aquarius, then it's got that kind of extra airy significations, like lots of communication. But it making that conjunction with Pluto, it's like, okay, I can now rebirth, I can apply that death and rebirth energy to my communication. So that is happening on February the 8th. Did I say 8th? No, 5th. And so that, like I say, keep note of that time. And like I said, I've written all this down as well. So I'll have the blog post that will go alongside this. So you don't have to worry about like scribbling down dates or anything like that if you're doing this. But there will likely need to be some composting of like old ways of thinking, perhaps old ways of communicating, that can then be like let go of in service of new things coming through. If you're in the circle of kindreds, we're working with the seed rune this month as well, this month, from the new moon until the new moon on the 9th. So we've got that kind of potential energy coming through as well, which is just so yeah, I've got the seed here, I've got it, I've got this. So like this is just very resonant with this time as well. And our goddess, if you're in the moon's goddesses, I was like, yeah, okay. And then on the 6th, so the next day on the 6th, Venus squares the nodes. So I talked about this a little bit at the last moon for the people in the membership. When a planet is being squared by both the nodes, it puts quite a bit of stress on that planet. It's called being in the bends in like kind of traditional astrology. And it means that that planet's function can be kind of almost like voided for a period of time. It only happens like for a short period. It's like the day that happens. It needs to be exact. So when Venus is being squared by the nodes, we've got that kind of the Venusian qualities of kind of like connection, love, you know, those kind of building relationship, even like beauty, things like that. Like if you're going to have a beauty treatment, that would not be a good day to have it done on the 8th, because on the 6th, sorry. Why am I obsessed with the 8th for some reason? Maybe because we're in an 8 year. So that 6th, you might feel like a little bit like depleted in those Venus qualities on that day. So just don't worry, you know, that's fine. It's just being aware of it. You know, it's like, okay, I'm aware of that now, so I won't like book an appointment or something on that day that is, or even like if you're going to book like a party or a get together or something, that probably wouldn't be a good idea on that day either. And then we do get to the 8th then, which is when the sun in Aquarius is squaring Uranus in Taurus. So we're getting those kind of those squares from Aquarius to the fixed earth sign Taurus. And so fixed earth Taurus has been going through a lot of stuff over the last couple of years. We've had Uranus in there, we've got Jupiter in there now as well, and there's been a lot of kind of like a restructuring of earth going on there. It's a Venus ruled sign as well, so it's like those kind of like Venus earthy Venus qualities have been kind of disrupted somewhat with Uranus being there. And then we've got this square happening from the sun, like just kind of churning things up again. So there could be like some unexpected changes. I wouldn't be surprised if on that day that we do get like, there might be stuff in the news as well that kind of can be like unexpected revelations, or like, you know, there's a lot of war going on at the moment. We might get some reports of things happening on that day, I would think. And then on the 9th, we've got the new moon, which we've got, so the new moon's in Aquarius, because it is always where the sun is. So then the moon kind of catches up with the sun in Aquarius. So we've got the moon and the sun and Mercury all in Aquarius, and Pluto. And that new moon is continuing that square to Uranus in Taurus. So yeah, you know, it's continuing that kind of unsettled energy. And I feel like that new moon, like if you want to be very constructive, or if you've got something that is like a long-term goal or something you want to put in place, that new moon is probably not ideal for those kind of things. Like it could be good if you do a kind of like a manifestation for something like more short term or something kind of unexpected. It could be good for also for kind of like money magic or things to do with unexpected changes in kind of Taurus, so like things to do with values. You might want to do some like money magic around that new moon, but I wouldn't be using it for like kind of like long-term structured plans, just because it's just unpredictable. And yeah, I'll be doing a video for the membership for that when you know, just before that moon. And then on February the 10th, we've got Mercury in Aquarius squaring Jupiter in Taurus. So I like this day. I think this is a good day. It looks like it's going to be like a kind of lucky day, a favorable day, especially to do with like communications, because we've got like it's a square aspect, so it can be a little bit tense, but it does give the opportunity of you know, with Mercury and Jupiter, it's like communications. You could get some good news on that day, or we could collectively get some good news on that day, which would be really nice as well, you know. But yeah, it's like this kind of little energy boost of positivity, which I think would be fun. But you do need to take action to get results. I'm just reading what I wrote in the blog post, because it is that square aspect. You need to be kind of like motivated to do that. You can't just kind of passively be like, oh, Jessica said this was going to be a lucky day, I'm just going to like sit here and wait for something to happen. You do have to kind of like put something in place. Perhaps if you did do some like new moon money magic or something like that, this could be when you hear about that. And then February the 13th, Mars goes into Aquarius. So we had the thing with Mercury going into Aquarius and going, you know, making the conjunction with Pluto, traveling through Aquarius. And now Mars has crossed over from Capricorn into Aquarius. And that is like bringing even more emphasis. Mars is that kind of like a fiery, motivated planet, and like Mars in Capricorn is actually really nice energy. It's like quite constructive energy. So if you've been feeling like I've been feeling the urge to kind of get things done around the house, kind of get things organized and stuff, like in my work and in my home have been the main places that I've been feeling it, which makes sense for that kind of Capricorn Cancer axis that Mars has been activating. But now Mars is going to shift into that Aquarius Leo aspect as well, so it's going to be more to do with like our kind of personal ambition, and also like bringing energy to that kind of collective improvement as well. So Mars is going to bring that fiery energy into that Aquarian soup that is happening, but there's lots of stuff in that soup, lots of different flavors in that soup. It's going to bring an extra bit of spiciness this month. So yeah, and then it forms a conjunction. It doesn't conjunct with Pluto immediately that it goes in on the 13th, but the following day, on Valentine's Day, we've got Mars and Pluto together. So like I said, Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, but the traditional ruler of Scorpio is Mars. So Mars has also got that kind of transformational, kind of taboo sometimes type of energy, the kind of like passionate, not always looking at the long term, never looking at the long term, more looking at the like what happens now kind of scenario. And so when those two of them come together, that could be quite explosive as well, you know. I mean, maybe like literally explosive, like we might see stuff in the news around that time, about that kind of thing. But on a personal level, especially, again, you know, be mindful of where this is in your own chart. What might be being activated by that kind of double dose of transformational energy that is happening at that, around that time. So around Valentine's Day, yeah, you know, should be nice. I can see a lot of like kind of bust ups, but you know, because things, like I say, because things need to die in order to kind of create the stuff out of which we can make new stuff. Yeah, so that is what is going on there. I wrote this one is potent in the blog. And then on the 16th, Venus crosses over. So we've got this extra energy moving into Aquarius now. So Venus comes in with Mars, Mercury, Sun, and Pluto in Aquarius. And so we've got this huge stellium of planets now all in Aquarius. And Venus coming in, I think, is really lovely actually, because it brings a bit of it soothes it all, it smooths it all, you know. It brings that kind of balm to what has been a little bit like tumultuous. But Venus is also going to make that conjunction with Pluto. So like you could almost see this like Persephone and Hades, you know, kind of coming together. Like, and that could be as a result of rape, or it could be as a result of choice, you know. That this is another opportunity for us to kind of use our discernment, our neons, and be like, okay, actually, how can I work with these energies? And so when Venus conjuncts Pluto is on the 17th, so the following day, on that same day, Mercury is also squaring Uranus in Taurus. We've got that Mercury-Uranus square happening, which is a kind of like, could get unexpected kind of communications again. We could get like kind of just, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if like news comes out on that day. But then we've also got that Venus and Pluto stuff as well. So it might be kind of like some hidden stuff, some skeletons in the closet kind of coming out around that February 16th, 17th time. So, you know, on a personal level, just kind of be aware of that, and also just be soothing. That would be a really good day. Like when we think about how things have been quite spicy, so since Mars has moved in there, like if we can kind of give ourselves some grace around this time and be a little bit more low-key perhaps in our obligations and things like that, that will give us more space, so that if unexpected things do happen in our personal life, or if we receive unexpected news, like it might not be bad news, it might be good news, but you know, if we allow ourselves space, then we've got more space to adapt to that then when that happens. Whereas if we're like completely like scheduled out and we are overstretched already, then it's much more easy to like break down when things like that happen. So like Venus, we have got this opportunity to like kind of start thinking about who we are in context of relationships when we got this Venus-Pluto connection happening as well. It's like, am I genuinely communicating my needs in my relationships? I don't mean just like in intimate relationships, I mean all relationships. Venus is all relationships. Am I communicating my needs well? You know, we got that Mercury thing happening as well at the same time. Am I being honest with myself? Is this stuff that's kind of hidden, you know, because Pluto's going to bring the hidden stuff up. So what is hidden? What can, you know, and we all have this stuff, we all have it. It's not, you know, we all sort of think, oh, well, they don't look like they've got any of this stuff. We've all got this stuff going on. So we just need to give ourselves some grace around that while this is going on. And then on the 19th, the sun moves on. So all of this has been happening in Aquarius. And then on the 19th of February, the sun moves into Pisces. So the sun, when the sun is in a sign, it's like highlighting it, you know, it's bringing that kind of center of the universe light onto that part of our lives, and all the other things that are happening in there. And then when the sun moves on, it probably will feel quite a significant shift, because You know, the sun's moved on to Pisces, but all of those other planets are still there. They are still in Aquarius. So I don't think it's going to feel like instantaneous change in vibe. Although the sun moving into Pisces, you know, we can expect things to feel a bit more dreamy. We can also, like the sun's going to be meeting up with Saturn there, meeting up with Pisces there. So, you know, it is a different vibe. But like I said, it's not a complete, like, this is the cutoff point for the stuff that's been going on, and then this is going to be more of a transition period, I feel like, as the sun moves in. Yeah, and then on the 22nd, so Feb 22nd, Venus and Mars make a conjunction in Aquarius. So, you know, I was saying about the kind of like spicy soup that we've got going on. When we've got that Venus and Mars energy together, that can be very passionate. It can also be destructive. You know, it's like when we think of a Venus and Mars conjunction, it can play out in a lot of different ways. But always be thinking like bedding it back down into the sign, into Aquarius. So like when Venus and Mars come together in Aquarius, then it, from a like a higher level perspective, it could be like Venus's like diplomacy could perhaps soothe Mars's like anger and like kind of desire for revenge, perhaps, in service of the greater good. So we might get some news around that on that day. Although, like, who overpowers who? Like, sometimes it will be Mars that will have the upper hand on it. It will maybe be like, no, aggression is the primary force, and like compassion is a secondary force. So, like, I'm gonna be interested to see how that one kind of plays out as we go further through the month. So that's on the 22nd when that becomes exact. But that energy is obviously kind of brewing for a while and won't dissipate instantly either, you know. So it's over a period of a few days. Well, like a week really. And then on the 24th, we've got a full moon in Virgo. So it's a different sign, guys. You know, we've had all this stuff going on in Aquarius. We've had a little bit of like entry into Pluto, and we have had like the Taurus stuff going on as well. But now we've got some Virgo as well. So Virgo is going to give us this kind of like more practical, kind of grounded, but still mercurial kind of energy as well. We've got that, you know, I feel like it's probably not going to be like a party full moon. It won't be a party full moon, but it could be a good chance to kind of like take stock of what has been going on and kind of like be like, okay, this has happened, this has happened, this has happened. How am I sitting with this all? I think that'll be a really good thing to do around that full moon, is just kind of take stock of ourselves, take stock of like where things have changed from the beginning of the month, and see like, what have I learned about myself? How can I now, because like Mercury rules Virgo, and so we want to take that kind of Mercury in Virgo attitude of organizing the information. It's like, I'm going to take all the information I've learned this month and I'm going to reorganize how I think about myself. And if that is, I said myself then, don't I? That's probably that's probably telling. Gemini sun here as well. So how we organize that information, we've got the chance this month to restructure how we think about ourselves. And that's really powerful, because so many of us have just kind of lugging around all of these like things, beliefs we've inherited from childhood, things people have told us, especially if you're like not a straight white man, then, you know, we're all lugging around like societal crap as well as our own personal crap. So we've got an opportunity now this month to be able to release some of that. And I think when we get to that full moon, we will be able to kind of see with some perspective what has happened, spot the patterns and things of things have been going up, like how have my interactions been going, especially like I'm saying in that those kind of Aquarian spheres of your life. But then you can also look as well now in where Virgo, like what house is Virgo for you. You can kind of think, okay, how is that going on as well? Because these things always link up, you know, everything in our lives links up. It's not like we're like, my work is completely separate from my family life or whatever, you know, all of these things connect. Yeah, I feel like we'll have a bit more perspective around that full moon, even though it won't be a party full moon, which is a shame, because like when we've had so much Aquarius is so very people orientated. Aquarians need people, and so it's quite strange in a way to have like that Virgo full moon in the Aquarian period that we have every year, you know, but it gives us that opportunity to kind of almost, like I say, kind of take a step back really and just get a better perspective on the whole thing, and maybe not be peopling quite as much around that full moon, because there probably will be a lot of interaction with people in general going on through this month. And then towards the end of the month, then we've got Feb 25th to the 27th. We've got Venus and then Mars. So on the I think it was the 25th, Venus does it. And then on the 27th, Mars, they both form squares with Jupiter and Taurus. So again, like when I talked about the Mercury making a square with Taurus, with Jupiter and Taurus, I feel like that's probably quite a favorable period because, you know, we could kind of feel quite motivated, especially when Mars and Jupiter make that conjunction, like a Mars and that square, a Mars Jupiter square. I find that quite energizing, and you know, it gives you a kick up the bum if you need one, and you can work on those things that are kind of being activated for you then. And then the same when we have a Venus, like Venus Jupiter square as well, is nice because it's like, it's not quite as motivating. It can be like a little bit like, oh, I just want to chill. I just want to kind of enjoy myself. But like, you know, hell, why not? You know, let's do that if we need to. When we get to that end of the month, we will have gone through a lot of stuff by that point. And then the end of the month is really interesting because, like I said, we've got this big shift that is happening as we go into February, and then it shifts again at the end of the month. So we've still got Pluto in Aquarius. Like I said, that's going to be happening for a really long time now, or the little dip back into Capricorn, but mostly now for the next 20 years. You know, this is a new epoch that is happening now. But at the end of the month, we've got the sun has already gone into Pisces. Mercury crosses over into Pisces as well. So this is on February 28th, I think. Is that, yeah? Yeah, so Mercury crosses in on the 28th into Pisces as well, and makes a conjunction with the sun, but also with Saturn in Pisces at the same time. So really, really interesting. So we've got Saturn and Mercury and the sun all together in Pisces. And like I've talked about Saturn in Pisces a lot because that has been a transit that's been happening for quite, you know, for a long time now already. But we've got all the kind of structural drive of Saturn to kind of consolidate things, but because it's Pisces, it's kind of like watering. It's not as easy to build solid structures out of water as it is out of earth, you know. So Saturn kind of behaves differently in Pisces, but we've got the Mercury then kind of stirring up the communication aspect of Pisces. I feel like if you are somebody who's very intuitive, or if you are somebody who like receives visions or anything like that, or if you do divination, this end of the month is probably going to be really powerful. I think dreams are going to be really powerful at the end of the month as well. You might want a dream diary around the end of the month going into March as well, because communication and how we structure our communication, how we think about our communication, and like because the sun is there as well, like how we communicate from our hearts as well, like how we express the truth of who we are, our kind of core self. And the things that have come up from that Leo full moon that we've just had recently, you know, a few days ago, we will probably see like almost like a consolidation of some of that stuff moving forward now. It's unusual to have the sun and Mercury and Saturn all kind of together. The Saturn has been rebirthed, so we're having this new opportunity to like kind of build new structures in our life. And like Pisces is a very spiritual sign, so it's like new structures that are more aligned with our kind of spiritual beliefs as well. And when we've got the sun, the Mercury conjoining with the sun as well, we've got this opportunity for new ways of communication as well, new ways of communicating about our spirituality, perhaps about the kind of truth of who we are. It's really interesting and much more like, I feel like the first, well, most of the month until we get to this very end point is much more kind of like outward looking and very much focused like on the collective rather than the individual. And well, no, you know, like we've got personal transformation because we've got the personal planets going through, but it's like it's interpersonal then. It is stuff that is happening to us, around us, with the people that are in our lives. Whereas at the end of the month, when we've got this stuff happening in Pisces with Mercury, Saturn and the sun, it is more to do with like our inner world, you know. It's the kind of inner work that'll be going on. Oh, hi, Michelle. Oh, hi, somebody's from India. Hi, Carol. Yeah, so close to your birthday, I think that it'll be more dreamy energy then, and perhaps not quite so like het up as well. Like obviously Mars and Venus are going to go into Pisces then as well, because they're all kind of traveling together through the beginning of this year. But for the moment, that it is more dreamy, more peaceful. And like I said, more kind of like psychic energy as well at the end of the month, around that very last well, it's a leap year, isn't it? So we've got the 29th as well, but the last few days of February. So in the blog post, I've offered some practical applications as well. But I think I've talked about that here as well. So I won't go through all that again. I will just share the link for the post when it's done. You know, things to do, like kind of creative collaborations, a lot of creativity possible this month. Oh, hi, Millie. Yeah, good wrap up for all that social now time, a bit of balance, a bit of withdrawing as well, you know, like that kind of more hermity energy, kind of going within at the end of the month. Yeah, so like I say, I'll put the link to the blog post in, I'll do that as soon as I've finished here, and we'll take the cards. So let's do the cards now. I think I'll take 2 tarot and then I'll take 1 oracle, and we'll just use that as like extra input for kind of navigating this transformational energy that is coming up. Yeah, I'm sure like there will be, I've already seen lots of stuff around Pluto going into Aquarius. It is, like some people are saying, is this like the actual start of the age of Aquarius now, which has been kind of heralded for a really long time. Yeah. So let's just give these a shuffle. I'm using the Everyday Witch Tarot by Deborah Blake. I'm just going to do it as a collective reading. Take 2. Interesting. Okay, so very interesting. We've got 2 pentacle cards. So we've got the 8 of Pentacles here. We've got this, like, this witch is brewing up her potion with all her different pentacles. Her cat is there. She's got a broom hanging up. It looks like it's a shop that she's working in. Like she's working in her shop where people probably come and buy the stuff that she's creating, her potions and things that she's creating. So what I'm seeing with this card here is that even though all this stuff is kind of like going on, we still have our normal lives happening, don't we? You know, we've still got our work, we've still got the stuff that we do to pay the bills, and we can't just kind of like, oh, hi Kendra, we can't just kind of like abdicate from our normal lives to kind of focus on doing the kind of transformational stuff. So just sort of keeping in mind that we also need to be focused on the kind of day-to-day stuff as well. And I feel like that's quite encouraging as well. It's like, yes, transformation is happening, but transformation is happening all the time, you know? So keep doing your kind of day-to-day stuff and kind of stay grounded in that as well. I think I love the 8 of Pentacles energy anyways. I find it quite calming. So I feel like that's a nice, nice kind of counterbalance to what is going on. And then we've also got the Knight of Pentacles. So, you know, there's opportunities here as well. There are opportunities for us to restructure our lives, restructure our kind of sense of self. And like those opportunities of restructuring, of composting and making something new have got the option, have kind of opening doors for us to, like I love the way it always reminds me of Harry Potter, this image, like he's just caught the snitch and he's just following it, you know, he's like, yes, I've done it. It's like I've just won a prize or something. And that is what it feels like, isn't it? When we do this work of like personal transformation, it's like, oh, I didn't know that about myself, or I've discovered something new about myself, and now I can forgive myself perhaps for something, or I can now change my behavior, I can do something differently. There's so much opportunity there for us to do things differently, healing and kind of grounding opportunities as well. I love how it's kind of like a bit at arm's length though. It's like, I know this stuff now, but I haven't quite integrated it yet. So I think that's going to be something that we will be kind of bringing forward as well as we move into you know, into this month. So yeah, if you don't feel like by the end of the month that you've fully integrated the learning, that's fine. You know, it doesn't have to all happen at once. I think around that full moon, it'll give us the opportunity to, like I say, to kind of see, kind of take a survey of what has happened and kind of organize the information. But that doesn't mean that we've fully integrated it. This is something that is going to be, we've got plenty of time. You know, Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for a long time, so we've got time. Let's take a card from the, I'm going to take one from the Witch Oracle as well, the Woman in Total Control of Herself Oracle. Oh, hi Vanessa. So let's see what this has to say about February. I really love this deck by haven't used it now for, well, I don't, this is the first time I'm using it this year, so it's really beautiful. Okay. Oh, wow. So what we have is the Labyrinth Walker. And we've got this image of a woman who is kind of like, it looks like almost like hovering above the labyrinth. And already, like, we've talked about Pluto and that kind of, the kind of Greek connections, the kind of Greek god connections there as well, of being like the labyrinth. It just conjures up so many images, doesn't it, of like kind of getting to the heart of what it is that is like the beast at the heart of the labyrinth, and then we kind of slay the beast and we move forward. So we've got that energy in this month to be able to kind of confront our inner demons, really, I suppose. And with the personal planets all going over Pluto, we get to do it like a little bit at a time, which is helpful. You know, we're navigating it a little bit at a time. It's not just being kind of dumped on us at once, although, you know, in 1 month. But yeah, I think that's really powerful. Let me see what it says in the guidebook about that, in case there's like a message in there for us, which I'm sure there will be. Otherwise it would not have come out. So, the Labyrinth Walker. We all seek comfort. It's human nature. After walking the labyrinth, we desire to sink into the center, relax, stay, maybe build a home there. We yearn to become centered by stasis, as if our spiritual, physical, or emotional well-being is a target we can hit, a status we can achieve. We get to the center and believe we've arrived, as if our well-being is a goal with a finish line instead of an ever-evolving process, a continuum we walk daily. So that's really interesting. It's like saying, yes, the process of transformation is ongoing. It's not something we like, oh yeah, tick, I've done that now. We seek the center and want to stay, not realizing the center, if occupied too long, becomes a trap. Stasis turns to stagnation, just like a river that no longer moves. This is the time to embrace the continued journey inward towards source, the imaginal and the liminal, and outward towards life, the practical and the tangible. A witch knows her journey moves in both directions, inward and outward, and doesn't count the steps inward as accomplishment, nor the required steps outward as failure. She embraces both expansion and entropy, and that is exactly what this is. Like, entropy means that conversion of energy into different forms, that breaking down of things so that new things can be born. So it's very on point. And is devoted to the path as it circles and changes. That is amazing. That is brilliant, brilliant. And like, that really reminds me, you know, like it bolsters up what I said about this card as well. It's like life is happening while these journeys are happening for us. And so we go within, we do the work, we come back out again, we go within again, we do the work, we come back out again. It is a cycle, it is a spiral dance. And so, you know, that's the whole point of using this astrology to kind of guide us while we do this. Hi Terry. Nice to see you here. I am actually just wrapping it up. Has anyone got any questions? These are our cards, and like I said, I will share a little write-up of these in the blog post as well. So I'll do that after I say goodbye here, and then I will post the link to the blog post, and like this video will be up as well if anyone wants to watch it later on too, although you guys have obviously seen it, apart from Terry, who's only just arrived. Yeah, this deck is really beautiful. This was gifted to me by Queen of Set, and I love it. It's really good. There's some really kind of like deep cards in here. Like sometimes oracles can be a little bit like I like that sometimes, like when they're a little bit love and light, but this one is not so much like that. There's a lot of neons in this deck. Yeah, so that's this. Yeah. Okay, so if nobody has got any questions, I've done quite well actually. We've done it on an hour, which is what I was hoping to do. I will get that blog post with all the dates and everything on there written up, and I will take some photographs of the cards that have come out and do a little short write-up of those cards as well to go alongside that, so that you've got that extra guidance. I find I love using tarot and astrology alongside each other. Well, in this case, tarot, oracle and astrology alongside each other, because I guess it's like astrology can sometimes be a little bit in the head, and then when you bring tarot into it as well, kind of like, I don't know, grounds it somehow as well. Yeah, Melissa, check the replay and blog. May have questions then. Yeah, and that's fine. Like if you do have questions, you can always ask them on the blog as well, and I do see those and I can answer them there. It was so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I'll have to figure out, like, oh, I know, I think I know. So I'm going to send you all warmest blessings, and I will see you very soon.